Hello everyone. The Beats, a graphic history. Of course, it centers around Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, and William S. Burroughs. Three of the most, I guess you could say, prominent, well-known beat writers slash poets. Of course, this being a graphic novel, there's a lot of really great detailed illustrations, such as this, Jack Kerouac. Here's some of Allen Ginsberg. And William S. Burroughs. Of course, there's many different artists that contributed to this. Also, different writers, people who helped arrange the text. It's a very good, thorough history of the beat generation. Though I will say at some points it did seem kind of repetitive, but that was only because with guys like Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, William S. Burroughs, there were different points in their lives when, they crossed paths with each other. They crossed paths with each other more than a handful of times. So that's why, to me, it seemed somewhat repetitive. But still an interesting read, nonetheless, still very informative. And even though these guys and others like them had their flaws, like any of us human beings, still doesn't really, I feel it still really doesn't negate the fact that they were really great writers and poets. So, and then of course the latter half of this graphic novel focuses on more little known writers and poets throughout the beat generation, and also who essentially helped to shape the very beginnings of what became known as beat poetry and beat writing, and also beat art and beat culture in general. So I really like that part. I also like the fact that there's one section devoted to various female beat writers, and because before this I gotta admit I had no idea that there were I knew there were female writers back then, and there have been for quite some time, just as long as male writers, obviously. But unfortunately they were overshadowed by guys like Kerouac, Ginsberg, and Burroughs. But I like that this graphic novel highlights their efforts as well, because they did contribute a lot too. And then also too, then the very last section is devoted to a band called the Fugs. And the Fugs were, I guess you could say, a very political band, very political oriented band. I guess you can call them rock, but they're really much more experimental. They had elements of rock, but a little more than that. Essentially, the Fugs was started by a guy, an aspiring poet. His name was Tully Kupferberg, I believe. Yeah, Tully Kupferberg. And he knew guys like Kerouac, Ginsberg, so he was inspired to start writing and performing his own poetry. And then he met up with a couple other guys who wanted to start a band, but they didn't have that much experience with playing instruments, but they still started anyways. And eventually it grew, and they got more members, they got more guys to join who had a lot more experience with playing instruments. And that's how the Fugs were born. And they took their name from a novel by Norman Mailer, in which I forget the title of the novel, but I guess in this novel, Norman Mailer, in order to get away with using certain slang terms and curse words, he had to change some of it. So in this novel of his, anytime a character would use the word fuck. Instead of that word, it was replaced with the word fug, F-U-G. So that's where they got the name of the Fugs. And so, yeah, and I like that they were very politically oriented. They performed at a lot of protests. I believe one of their songs has a title of something like "Exorcising the Demons from the Pentagon" or something along those lines. Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's made me want to find out a lot more about that band, the Fugs, and which I will do, hopefully sometime soon. But overall, I'd give this 5 stars, definitely 5 stars. I do recommend reading it, especially if, you know, any of these guys happen to be one of your favorite writers or poets. Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, William S. Burroughs. Or even if you're just curious about the Beat generation of writers and poets in general, I do recommend reading this. So, yeah, there you go, 5 stars. That'll do it for this review. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Until next time, keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace.